Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how are you this week?
I am stuffed. I have traveled around the world for all of you and eaten mostly more than my share of desserts. But things that really aren't all among my favorite food groups and things that I often avoid. And I have to say, I was incredibly surprised with how much I loved everything I've had to eat this week.
Well, it is the fall, so that means that we are turning the page in EPCOT to the Food and Wine Festival, which is one of my favorite times of the year to go to EPCOT. And I know that you were just there. It just started. We're recording this show earlier in the week. It's September 1st when we were recording, but you were there as it opened. So let's start with the basics. Tell us about everything that you had and what we can expect from this festival.
This year, the festival is August 29th to November 23rd. I know we've talked in earlier episodes that now that we're thankfully well beyond COVID, we're back to kind of normal festival seasons. If you remember, 2 years ago, they were starting this festival in the middle of July, and while it was great, it was long.
Yeah.
So you definitely have plenty of opportunity, close to 90 days to take it all in. And there is so much there that I guarantee you'll want 2 to 3 days to enjoy all the great food, the entertainment, so much to see and do.
Well, it's always an interesting time to go. It's filled with all sorts of stuff. It's not just food and not just drink. There's plenty of fun things that are going on there. We got concerts and of course merchandise and all that other stuff as well.
Merchandise at Disney? No way.
Yeah, you don't end in a shop right now. That just the entire thing is a gift shop.
You know, I have to be honest. When I went in, I stayed at Boardwalk, so I did come through the International Gateway versus the front of the park.
Right.
And while I saw a flag or two on the light poles as I was walking, I made my way past the UK, past Canada, and I honestly pulled out my phone. I looked at my calendar and did a quick Google search because they've really gone back to making EPCOT, and the festival exists semi-unobtrusively to how it did in the past. So in that whole stretch, all the way till I turned the bend in front of Canada, there wasn't a food booth. There wasn't a souvenir spot. In the past, because there was so much of the park under construction,
right,
the World Showcase was just filled with temporary booth after booth. And what it did, besides the lines for the booth taking up space, the booth took up space. And so it was so pleasantly shocking to walk through and actually have like space to breathe and not feel like I was in this smushy place. And they just part of the renovations in EPCOT that I don't think they really laid out because, frankly, most people didn't care about it. It wasn't exciting news, but you really saw it when you were there now, is they work to make festival stands and locations off the beaten path. You didn't have to go out of your way to get to them, but they weren't taking up the standard traffic space. And now that we have a festival center, they really focused a majority of the merchandise in the center instead of so many kiosks holding the things for you to buy.
Interesting. Okay. But how many locations are there for food?
37 different locations participate. Some of them are existing locations that bring in a festival item or two. It is not 37 food booths.
Right.
But a shocking 113 items on the menu. 29 of them are new, many of which I tried for you this year. 146 specialty drinks, mostly alcoholic, a few non, and 46 of those are new. And while I understand these are not the same thing, so please don't come after me, I'm going to lump them together for purposes of what we're talking about. gluten-free, wheat-free, and plant-based. 32 options at the festival.
Huh.
So I think that's a lot. And I will also say, I've mentioned before, my daughter has been gluten-free for many years. She is also dairy-free. And if you know me, partly because of the cost of gluten-free items, and partly because I find many of them taste like cardboard, I don't like to eat gluten-free. I will very purposely make something for her and something else for me. So when we talk about foods that I try, I will tell you that I shockingly went for 3 gluten-free items, and if they were not marked on the menu, I never would have guessed, including one that had a cookie with it. So
Ooh.
kudos to the chefs on some awesome choices this year.
Awesome. All right. So listen, you had mentioned the festival center. Is that really the major new thing this year that we should talk about? Or is there other stuff that you kind of want to mention as well, as far as what's new for folks this year?
You know, I think the booth layout is definitely new. And I think part of it, which we've seen coming over the last couple of years, they came to the conclusion that the festival doesn't need to be limited to the World Showcase. And so we saw during COVID, because they needed the space, that they started putting some of the festival booths in the front. And that really continued. There's several of them, and they don't get in the way at all. And most of them even have seating with them, which we never used to see. The festival center, if you listen to the episode where I talked about the new Encanto show and Communicore Hall and not understanding this room filled with chairs and tables, it is now the festival center. And so half of the room no longer has chairs and tables. It's all merchandise and laid out well, restocked continually, and lots of temporary registers to eliminate standing in line, which was nice.
Sure.
The other half of the festival center, which I did not realize when I went the first time through, has 2 roll-up windows that become kitchens.
Oh.
So instead of an official festival booth, there are those 2 kitchens. If I had my wish, if you're listening, anybody, those kitchens could make for some display kitchens, because we're still missing all the great demonstrations that we used to love about food and wine. There are no alcohol tastings. There are no cooking seminars. And I had hoped we'd see that come back with the festival center, and we didn't, but maybe it's, on its way for the next festival or next year. Maybe that's still in the works.
Well, when you mentioned it just there, that was immediately where my brain went. So, we hadn't talked about that. So clearly it seems like it's possible.
I have to assume, in all honesty, that they were not money makers for Disney.
Right.
They were things that I deemed one of the best values on property. You could do those demonstrations or tastings for $10 to $15 a person. And while I understand the ingredients don't cost $10 to $15, the staffing for it and the cleanup and setup, I think certainly did.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll see it back. There also still, sadly, is no party for the senses this year. So again, huge transformation this year. So many great things, but still some things that I hope we see them bring back.
All right, so let's jump in. Let's talk food, right? That's a big reason why we're there. So
I'm going to start with a tip for every chef that's out there or a chef wannabe.
Okay.
I tried a fry flight, and I don't know why there aren't more fry flights in the world. We always get beer flights, wine flights,
tequila flights if you go into Mexico and Epcot.
This was the way to go. The fry cart outside of Test Track offered a fry flight. Say that fast.
Yeah.
It was 3 cone-shaped containers filled with fries. And then the 3 of them sat very well into this tray so that you could walk away from the stand and not feel like you were dumping it. Okay. The first one, which is what pulled me right in, was, of course, truffle fries.
Right.
The second and the third, it almost made me not buy this, but how could you go wrong? So I decided to try them. A barbecued bacon fry with a smoked aioli. And then a sweet potato casserole fry with candied pecans, toasted marshmallow cream, and bourbon maple syrup. Now, I don't normally eat sweet potatoes. I'm not a fan of them. Let me tell you, this candied pecan, toasted marshmallow, bourbon syrup kind of made like a dipping sauce that if I could have brought a gallon of it home with me, I would have.
That sounds delicious.
Oh my God, amazing. So make sure you try the fry flight.
Now, when you say the barbecue bacon with smoked aioli, is it a French fry or is
it's
it
a barbecued French fry with a bacon smoked aioli?
Got it. Okay. So it's not deep fried bacon.
It is not deep fried bacon. I know lots of ingredients here going into these things.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, let's move on from the fry flight.
And if I can't eat a gallon of the candied pecan toasted marshmallow cream, I could definitely eat a gallon from the new mac and cheese kiosk in the Communicore Festival Center. I had the truffle mac and cheese, which was absolutely to die for. They also had a standard mac and cheese with a panko herb topping, a cheesesteak mac and cheese, and then an impossible chili, which obviously became a vegan option mac and cheese.
Oh man, I'm gonna keep my son away from that. I gotta remember that's in the festival center. You said.
Oh my God, I definitely will admit that I went back more than once.
All right, well, let's run through. There was some more too. You got a lot here, so I want to give them some.
Oh, they were just so good. Also, in the front of the park, I had from the description a steakhouse blended burger, beef and wild mushrooms slider. Oof. And I'm a truffle fan here, if you haven't figured that out.
Yes.
With a truffle brie, cheese fondue, arugula, and truffle potato chips. It was kind of like being down at Rutgers University where they pile it all on the sandwich, like the truffle
fat sandwiches. Sure, yeah.
On the sandwich.
Oh man.
With an amazing sesame seed bun. That was a definitely do not miss one.
That's a lot of savory right there that you just hit us with. It's all in my wheelhouse.
So good.
Yeah.
And even as just a small slider, pretty filling.
Okay. What about something sweet, like some desserts? What did you enjoy?
I then had what I think they've misnamed the chocolate amarula mousse dome, aka a zebra dome.
Sure.
It tasted just like a zebra dome. So for those of you who love it and can't get to Animal Kingdom Lodge, this is an oversized zebra dome on a sugar cookie bottom, and it is a gluten wheat friendly item, and that's new this year.
Okay.
Then the next gluten-free item I went with, and I didn't even realize this till I was kind of typing up my notes, over in the American Pavilion. This one is to die for. It's a fresh baked chocolate pudding cake with a bourbon caramel glaze on it.
Oof.
Oh my God, like hot chocolate molten. And I will say, I was a little sad to see that in the UK, they used to have this chocolate cake with Baileys over it. And I'll be honest, every time I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this isn't Entenmann's Little Bite. This is like the tiniest little chocolate cake I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
This chocolate pudding cake was about 4 times the size. Definitely a shareable dessert because honestly, it was very rich. It was not something that I could even finish as a solo person, but it was a definite don't miss.
Okay. What else?
From there, another dessert and another gluten-free option. And I said earlier, I'm not a sweet potato person, but this one also called to me. Liquid nitrogen frozen sweet potato mousse with candied pecans and maple caramel sauce. So again, if you haven't figured it out, pesto, truffles, pecans, walnuts.
And
You've got,
apparently bourbon. Apparently bourbon. I'm just throwing that out there. You got bourbon
you
in
know,
a couple of these things.
they're not things that I would typically. I don't drink bourbon straight, but on these desserts, amazing.
We won't hold it against you. Everybody's got a flaw. Don't drink bourbon straight. You know what I love about the last thing that you just mentioned is I love the liquid nitrogen frozen piece. Right? It's a little thing that is kind of unique and fun. That's a little twist to it. It's entertainment.
You can watch them make yours for you right through the window. They're made kind of one at a time to order. What I didn't expect, because I've had, frozen ice creamy mousse before.
Sure.
And usually it comes out in this ball. But because of the sauce on this, once the ball comes out and you think she's about to plate it, she takes this odd looking hammer and smashes it so that all the toppings kind of float right into it. So you do have the hard crust that you can eat, but then you also have that inside mousse that's kind of soaking in the filling. It's really great.
It sounds awesome. All right, we got a couple more before we hit some old favorites.
I'm going to tell you a quick funny story on the next one.
Okay.
I could not pronounce this. I can pronounce the words pear and almond, could not pronounce what came after it. And I really tried to get these things right. So sometimes when I'm purchasing my item, I will say to them, and I'm sorry, could I bother you to pronounce that for me?
Right.
And she says to me, yes, we call it pear and almond dessert. It's great. Really, she can't pronounce it either. So I told the story to the woman who ripped my receipt, and she said it's Franpain pâte brûlée.
Sure, no problem.
So dessert.
Yeah.
Pear and almond dessert in this pastry crust with large sugar crystals on top. Absolutely amazing. And this is in one of the booths in that area that I talked about that they kind of have claimed as a festival spot now. Years ago, they used to put a temporary playground up for the festival.
Yes.
I never understood why they felt kids only needed to run around a couple of weeks a year.
Correct, yeah.
They now have the permanent playground near the front of EPCOT. So this was the playground. Also, it was the 100th celebration wall that we didn't know what was going behind it, where you could spot 100 characters. It now has 2 festival booths, and in between them, fake grass, bunches of picnic tables, covering so you're not melting in the hot sun, where you can sit and enjoy your treats. And in the afternoon, they actually had a recreation team come out and hula hoop and do some other games with the kids. So I thought that was a great addition to inside the park.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more, and then we'll hit some old favorites that I know people are always interested about.
So this booth was the super surprise to me. Over by Soaring, they had a new booth called Earth Eats Menu in the World Nature section. They tried to do those front of the booths theme to the new sections.
Okay. I like that.
It had 2 new items. I tried them both. I honestly considered not ordering the dessert, and had I not done it and heard about it later, it would have been a mistake.
Okay.
They had a red wine braised beef short rib with polenta and shaved cheese on top. Definitely couldn't go wrong with that one.
No,
so delicious.
Yeah.
A little bit of kick in the polenta. And it was a goat cheese polenta, and I'm a goat cheese fan as well.
Right.
I'm basically an any kind of cheese fan.
Yeah, you and me both.
And then they had a lemon poppy seed cake with lemon icing. And I probably only bought it because it had a purple edible flower on the top.
Presentation, sure.
I generally find that poppy seed cakes are too heavy for me and that they are too lemony for me. And so I kind of thought I'd have 2 bites and report that.
Okay.
I will say I ate this entire dessert. Amazing icing, really light cake, excellent. I happened to be back at the festival the next day with my nephew, and I was like, you're a poppy seed cake fan. You should try this. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, go. So he starts to eat it, and he says to me, oh my God, Aunt Sandy, this is probably the best poppy seed cake I've ever eaten. So while you
It's a good
may
show.
be tempted to skip it because it's so ordinary compared to a lot of the other things, it was so delicious. Don't skip it.
I don't think we're going to skip that at all. That's right in everybody's wheelhouse in my place. Anything else you got?
They did a cheese hunt. They always have one hunt where if you buy 5 items that contain that ingredient, you get a special item for free.
Yep.
They had a blueberry soft serve with cream cheese with a cheesecake on top.
Nice.
That was their free gift when you purchased that. So all good there. And thanks for reminding me that I just get a little too involved talking about yummy food.
Well, listen, you can't go wrong with most of what you said there. And I know that a lot of people always are looking for some of the new stuff. I'm heading there during this festival, and I'm everything you said sounds like something I want. So I'm not going to hold it against you. But I know that people are always looking for some of the stuff that they see year after year. So what's there that we know that is reliable? So
again, I'm a cheese fan, so the griddle cheese with pistachios and honey on top is always a hit for me. And then the Alps booth has a warm Swiss cheese done 3 different ways, depending what your liking is. And the one with ham and baby potatoes is a real hit. The other one that's back this year that I won't say I needed to taste again, but I think for people that don't get to the festival every year, this one was a hit, was the pickle shake.
Yeah, we talked about that last year.
And the line for that was large. I also want to say, because I know we have a lot of Muppets fans, the Odyssey, which took on the pickle shake, was a Muppets creation. And we talked last year about some of the decorations that they had in the Odyssey that were Muppets themed. But this year they really went all out, did this amazing display desk, and you can kind of put yourself, you can walk into the middle of it, and it's a great photo op as you become the scientist mixing great foods there. So don't miss that stop either.
That's fun. Listen, these things are awesome. Is there anything that you just really didn't jive with you this year?
And I was glad I had my nephew with me this day, because every once in a while it's like, is this going to be the favorite of everybody and I'm just the one that doesn't like it? So next to poppy seed cake, my nephew is a huge fan of cornbread.
Yeah.
And in Mexico this year, they had a cornbread with chocolate sauce topped with cheese. I mean, it sounds like an odd combination. I'm not a huge cornbread fan. I'm a chocolate fan. I'm a cheese fan.
Right, yeah.
It had a lot of potential. I will say the first bite I had took me by surprise because I expected the chocolate to be warm and it was ice cold. So it didn't start the way I expected.
No.
I don't know what was in that cornbread. I will say, out of every festival food I have tasted in my history of all EPCOT festivals, this goes down as the worst treat I ever had.
Oh, wow. Okay. So avoid.
My nephew felt the same way. And it's kind of funny because we get, as travel agents, we get a different food guide than the one that they put out for the public. And this was like the featured picture on the food guide this year. So we definitely tried it. It was an epic fail for me, but
any other things that you had that just didn't
hit? I always find Italy to be amazing. I swear I was Italian in a past life. And I tried the Popoltine Tuscan beef meatballs, focaccia bread, and pompadora sauce. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But I have to say, kind of like the poppy seed cake, one of the things with the festival that I always find, I don't know how the chefs do this over and over, but the presentation on these tiny plates is awesome. And shout out to whoever even does their paper good ordering. It is not one plate for every item. There are different sizes and shapes of plates and bowls to really present these things in the best light. And I looked at this and said, not only could I do the presentation on this, slap 4 meatballs in this corner, put the piece of bread in the middle, and put a small container of sauce on the other side. Pretty much any 4-year-old could have done the presentation on this. And, it's been said over and over, we eat with our eyes first. So this one just didn't work for me that way.
Okay. Where do you want to go from here? We've got a couple minutes left. There's a couple things we do still want to talk about. What do you think we need to mention before we say goodbye?
They do a treasure hunt for pretty much every festival now. My theory is it's really to give the kids something to look for. This one was Ratatouille themed. So $9.99, you buy a treasure map with stickers. You look for Ratatouille. It tells you where to look, to look in each country. When you find him, you can turn in your completed map and get a prize. You can also just get your prize when you buy the map if you don't want to go back.
Right.
This year, they were really cute little bowls. $9.99 for the bowl wasn't bad. You can buy the bowl for $9.99 or buy it with the map. I also believe if you've got a little kid and you don't want to spend the $9.99, a 3, 4, 5-year-old, you can point out the first Ratatouille you see and they can look for them without the map. It's definitely a doable thing.
Okay.
The last thing is the concerts. All of the festivals have concerts, which are typically amazing. 3 concerts nightly, 5:30, 6:45, and 8 p.m. So done in time to make sure that you can see fireworks. With or without dining packages. They do get a little pricey with dining packages. It depends if you need to be a seat in the front section or not. Often, I've done the concerts from outside the theater since it is an open theater, and I'll stand in the back. I will say the concerts are a big draw because there are some incredible names or great cover bands. The Fray, Sugar Ray, Tiffany, Sheila E., Joey Fontaine, the Switchfoots, Billy Ocean, Hanson, Boys to Men, really big names. So the concerts are always a draw. This year, I will admit, I was disappointed. Opening night was not one of their standard concerts. It was a party band. Nobody you ever heard of, not limited to one type of music. It was as if you were at a wedding, a bar mitzvah, sweet 16. Here's all the music that you can clap along with, and it was a lot of fun, but just not what I was really used to.
Sure,
but
it's not Hanson.
It's not Hanson.
Right.
Day 2 was the Fray. The crowds were wild and thrilled. So look at the schedule. Know that it's always subject to change, even last minute. They are humans after all. Things happen.
Sure.
But some great concerts to see. And again, included with admission. This is not an extra.
Right. It's not an add-on. You just walk over to America and there it is. It's right there for you. All right. So give us one last tip, I guess you would, for anybody planning to visit the festival. Maybe they've done before. Maybe it's their first time. And then we'll say goodnight.
I'm going to smush it all together if I can only have one tip.
That's it.
Go early in the day. Try and avoid the weekends. A lot of locals with annual passes are there. And have your list of where you want to go. But if you get to a booth and the line is long, I don't think you should wait. I found several booths that I went to, especially the mac and cheese. I think everybody went there first. I got there about 45 minutes after it opened. The line was out the door. I would have been person probably 100 online.
Wow. Okay.
I went back 3 hours later. I was person number 4.
That's significantly shorter.
So if you see a long line, skip it and circle back. Even sometimes half an hour later makes all the difference. Well,
listen, this is by far my favorite festival that EPCOT does. And every year I'm like, oh, let's see what they've got. You've just rattled off about 6 or 7 reasons that I am excited to go this year, to keep my son out of that festival center, to stay away from the mac and cheese stuff. But I do appreciate you going down early to give us a sense for anybody that's planning on traveling there really over the next, 2 months, two months plus to this festival. So thanks.
Pretty much up till Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So thank you for doing it and enjoy the rest of your week.
My pleasure. Happy eating.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week. And as always, keep making memories.